Okay, so you want to really get under the skin of a fascinating bit of culture, like a specific moment in time.
Yeah.
And maybe even pick up some timeless style tips along the way, right? But who actually has weeks to spend on deep research these days? Well, that's exactly what we're doing here. In this deep dive, we're going to be taking a good long look at a book.
A book that
Yeah.
initially seems pretty unassuming, but actually has had a pretty big impact. It's Take Ivy by Teruyoshi Hayashida.
Take Ivy.
It's interesting. It's not your usual kind of glossy fashion coffee table book.
Right.
More of a visual document, really. It was originally published in Japan back in 1965, and it's this collection of photographs by Hayashida and his team.
Go.
They went to 8 different Ivy League universities, kind of a cultural expedition.
Mm.
And they were really focused on just documenting the way students actually dressed.
And these weren't set up photos, right? It wasn't like they had models or stylists making sure everyone looked a certain way.
No, not at all.
This was real life, yeah.
Yeah, this was everyday life, captured on the campuses of places like, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Columbia.
The real deal.
Yeah, the real deal.
I love that even in the title itself, Take Ivy, it kind of has that same cool vibe as that old jazz tune, Take 5.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it hints at a certain rhythm, this sort of off-the-cuff, almost improvisational way these guys put their looks together.
You picked up on that. It's true. It really does make you think of a moment captured in time.
Yeah.
A certain feeling. And that's what we're going to do today, try and unpack what made Ivy style what it was, why this little book became so influential.
Considered across the Pacific.
Especially across the Pacific, yeah. Why there, and what's its lasting impact been.
So let's kind of dive into this snapshot of very particular time then.
Okay.
The late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, a very specific moment.
Take Ivy really seems to freeze that era.
Right.
What was so special about that time for men's fashion, particularly within the Ivy League?
Well, what makes it so interesting is that this period is seen as the peak, the high point of a certain look. It was like the last hurrah of that post-war Ivy League style.
Okay.
Before the really big cultural shifts of the late 60s changed everything. And the photos show us there were some key garments, like a real consistency.
So give us the specifics. What were the absolute must-have pieces that define this Ivy style we're talking about?
Well, there's the Oxford cloth button-down shirt.
The OCBD?
The OCBD, exactly. You mostly see them in pale colors, pastels, or classic white.
Yeah.
Then there's the natural shouldered sack jacket.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, often in tweeds, like a good Harris tweed, suggesting heritage. Yeah, or a solid navy serge. And those jackets, they often had very specific tailoring.
Oh, tell me about it.
Like the 3-roll-2 button stance. That's where the top buttonhole is rolled over so you don't button it.
Okay.
Gives a softer lapel line.
Yeah.
And then there was the hook vent in the back.
Subtle, but important.
Yeah, those are the things that really say quiet confidence, even if people don't quite realize why.
It's true. Those little details add up to a whole impression.
They really do.
And what about the trousers? What were they wearing?
Chinos, mostly.
Of course.
Worn with no break at the ankle, so
Yeah.
the hem's just grazing the top of the shoe
Yeah.
for shoes. Penny loafers, no socks. That was the classic look.
Yeah.
And then to top it off,
Talk it off.
you often see a crewneck Shetland sweater, either layered over the shirt or just kind of casually draped over the shoulders.
Our notes here say utilitarian charm combined with insouciant elegance. And honestly, that nails it.
It does, doesn't it?
It's that perfect mix of practical and effortlessly stylish.
It is. And when you look at how they styled things, that studied effortlessness is even more obvious.
Oh, yeah.
Shirt collars, often unbuttoned, maybe casually rolled.
Right.
It's like a deliberate move away from that stiff, almost military formality.
I get you.
Ties. If they wore them at all, they were loose, sometimes just not there at all.
It's a statement.
It was more than just comfort. It was about a quiet confidence, not needing all that extra decoration. Like they valued function and tradition above all else.
And the accessories played a big part in this image too, didn't they?
They did. Things like ribbon belts, those surcingle belts, or those striped NATO watch straps.
Sporty.
Yeah. Even the trousers. Always slightly short, almost never pleated. It all added to that very specific look.
Like a kind of inherited style language that prized understatement above all else.
That's it, exactly.
So this wasn't about standing out, being flashy, chasing the latest trends.
No.
It was more about fitting in, but signaling your status in this subtler way.
Absolutely. Status wasn't about showing off your wealth or chasing fads. It was about the quality of your clothes, the perfect fit, the respect for tradition.
Like these guys knew the rules well enough to bend them a little.
Exactly.
But there had to be some individual touches within all of this.
Oh, for sure. Our notes actually call them quiet deviations, which is perfect.
I like that.
You'd see a Madras blazer with that bold pattern.
Oh, yeah.
A seersucker jacket, perfect for warm weather.
Right.
Sometimes even, get this, a cowboy boot.
What, with those chinos?
Yeah, just peeking out. Small personal touches.
Hints of personality within that framework.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the Japanese perspective.
Okay.
What was it about this American look that just captivated those Japanese-style enthusiasts?
Well, you have to remember, in post-war Japan, there was a huge fascination with anything Western,
Okay.
especially with the whole image of the American East Coast. And a key figure in all of this was Shosuke Ishizu.
The guy behind the Van Jacket brand?
Yeah, he led this whole project.
Okay.
And he really fostered this interest in Americana. And it wasn't just about Western influence.
What else?
I think there was an admiration for the order, the tradition they associated with these Ivy League schools,
Right.
which really resonated with aspects of Japanese culture where respect for heritage is important.
So Hayashida's photographs weren't just like a fashion catalog. They were
Right.
like almost anthropological.
Exactly. They were trying to understand this seemingly effortless style, the whole culture behind it.
Yeah.
But they were also aspirational, showing what, to Japanese eyes, was exotic elegance.
And those American students, they just projected this cool without even seeming to try.
Right, and they were wearing clothes that were hard to get in Japan back then.
Right. But our notes mention idealization?
Mm.
Were they maybe capturing a bit of a romanticized view?
Well, the students in Take Ivy are mostly white and clearly from well-off families.
Yeah.
And they weren't really aware of being photographed by this Japanese team. But that's actually what gives the book its power and its authenticity.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It captured this style as it was truly lived
Yeah.
before it became a global commercial thing.
So for Japanese readers, this wasn't just a pretty book. It actually had a practical use.
It totally did. It was
Yeah.
like a visual dictionary of Western casual wear, something they hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
It was both inspiration and instruction. And it didn't take long for those images to spark a homegrown Ivy boom in Japan.
That's when brands like Van Jacket took off, right?
Exactly. Van Jacket tapped into that fascination, producing those key Ivy League pieces, the blazers, loafers, OCBDs.
For new Japanese market.
Yeah, young people were eager for that cosmopolitan, refined image. Soon, teenagers and college students in Tokyo, places like Harajuku, they were all over this look.
And adapting it for themselves.
Exactly. So this American East Coast style went global, and Japan was at the forefront of that.
It's amazing how something so seemingly niche had such a huge reach.
I know, it is.
So let's talk about the lasting legacy of Take Ivy. Our notes say it kind of went under the radar for a while, but then built this cult following.
It's interesting, isn't it? It stayed with style insiders for years. It wasn't mainstream, but influential designers started referencing it. Take Ralph Lauren. His whole brand is built on this idea of Americana.
Right.
Take Ivy was like a blueprint for that look.
Then you've got people like Tom Brown taking classic prep and really messing with it.
Yeah, he used that Ivy League structure, that formality, as a starting point. Then he pushed the boundaries, the silhouettes, the proportions. So you see the book's influence in both a straight-up embrace of preppy and in a kind of deconstruction of it.
And it goes beyond high fashion, doesn't it? Those core Ivy elements pop up again and again.
They do. Think of the 80s mod revival, the prepster trend of the early 2000s, even that old money look on TikTok.
Right.
Rep ties, varsity sweaters, loafers, blazers. It keeps coming back. But Take Ivy shows you how to wear it, not just what to wear.
That studied effortlessness again.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The rolled sleeves, the unbuttoned jacket, even carrying your books in a simple tote instead of a briefcase.
Yeah.
It's about ease, authenticity, something people still respond to, especially in street style, where personal expression is everything.
Okay, let's talk about the book itself.
Okay.
Our notes say it's mainly photos with short captions.
It is.
Not a lot of text or analysis, especially the original version.
That's right. The 1965 edition was really about the visuals. There wasn't much explanation or commentary. The context came later with reissues and translations.
And maybe that lack of explanation is part of its appeal.
Maybe so.
The images just speak for themselves.
They do, don't they?
They tell this whole story about style, about youth, about privilege, about identity.
Exactly. And the way Hayashida took the photographs,
Yeah.
it's observational, not creepy or voyeuristic.
Okay.
He was really focused on capturing these guys in their environment.
So the setting becomes as important as the clothes.
Absolutely. You see them on the steps of the dorms, at rowing club events, in the dining hall. It all adds to the story.
Yeah.
You see them relaxing on the lawn, rushing between classes. It gives you a real sense of place.
And there are lots of group shots, but some of the most striking photos are those single figures, kind of caught off guard.
Those are the ones that really show you how they carried themselves. It's not just about the clothes, it's their whole demeanor. Take Ivy is as much about posture as it is about fashion.
But looking back now, we have to talk about the critical side of this. The representation in the book is super limited, racially, in terms of gender, and socioeconomically.
It's a really important point. From today's perspective, seeing almost exclusively white, male, affluent students, it reflects a time before style and higher education were more accessible.
So they were documenting a very specific world.
They were.
And they captured the limitations of privilege that were just the norm then.
Absolutely.
So it's a record of a style, but it's also a reminder of a less inclusive time.
That's true.
But as our notes say, the book's impact is partly because it preserved this pre-transformation world.
Right.
Just a few years later, campuses changed so much, dress codes too.
It's true.
Take Ivy becomes almost a relic. A last glimpse of this time when Ivy style was the default.
Maybe even a bit of a lament for a certain innocence that time represented.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that after being somewhat forgotten, Take Ivy had this big comeback when it was reissued in English in 2010.
It is.
What made it resonate again at that time?
Well, it was perfect timing. The late 2000s saw this huge revival of heritage fashion.
Yeah.
People were rediscovering classic clothes, timeless styles.
Yeah.
And Take Ivy was right there.
A pure, undiluted vision of that Ivy League style.
Exactly.
And it's been a touchstone ever since.
It has. Stylists, designers, fashion editors, they all keep going back to it.
It's like a masterclass in that understated elegance.
Yeah, but I think the most important thing is it shows how powerful everyday style can be.
Those seemingly small choices we make.
Right.
Yeah.
They can have a huge cultural impact.
So Take Ivy wasn't some big fashion revolution. It was, as our notes put it, a quiet revolution in how we think about style.
Exactly. It showed that beauty can be found in the ordinary. It's not just about high fashion dictates. It's about how real people live their lives in their clothes.
Yeah.
It's about proportion, restraint, personal expression.
If you're into menswear, youth culture, how fashion travels across the world,
You gotta check out this book.
it really shows that true style doesn't need to shout. It can be a student walking across campus, hands in their pockets, just being themselves.
Leaving a mark without even realizing it.
So for you, the listener, think about this. How do the clothes you choose reflect not just your tastes, but maybe even bigger cultural trends and your own changing sense of who you are, even years from now? It's something to ponder long after this deep dive is over.
Definitely something to think about.
Thanks for joining us.
It was a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.